Hi guys, bonjour, guten tag, ni hao and como sta. Welcome to our new channel, Travel Lingo. I'm Malcolm from the UK and I'm on holiday here in Davao City in the beautiful Philippines. In this blog, we're going to be talking about living, working, maybe just going on holiday in various foreign countries in the world. How to live there, how to get along with the local customs, and how to communicate with the local people. I've lived and worked in many different countries in the world, learned a few languages as I've gone along, and picked up quite a few tips which I'm hoping maybe to pass on to you. We'll be talking about other countries in future blogs, but in this blog, because I'm in the Philippines, I thought we'd start right there with our beautiful Davao City and living in the Philippines. The Philippines is an archipelago of many islands, in fact over 7,000 islands. It's set here in the beautiful South China Sea. Although we have so many islands, the country is divided roughly into three different portions. The north of the Philippines, which is Luzon and includes Manila, the capital. Then we have the central Philippines. Main island is Cebu City, which is known as the Pearl City of the South. And then we have the southern Philippines, Mindanao, which is where we are at the moment. And as you can see, the view behind of Davao City is a very big, important city in the southern Philippines. The languages are many that are spoken here in the Philippines, but principally in the north we have the capital, and the main language there is Tagalog, or Filipino as it's commonly called. And that would be the first language of anybody who lives and works in Manila. Then we have the central Philippines. The main language spoken here is Visayan, or Cebuano as it's sometimes known. Also in the southern Philippines, the same language is spoken, often with different dialects. So as you can see, the main languages here in the Philippines are Tagalog, or Filipino as it's sometimes called, Visayan or Cebuano as it's sometimes called, and of course English, which is widely spoken in the Philippines. In fact, English is spoken here more than any other Asian country. So you can manage with English in most parts of the Philippines, except maybe very outlying areas. But in general, English can be understood and used in most parts of the Philippines. But of course, it's very nice to learn some of the local dialect and the local language. It will really impress the locals if you speak to them, even a few simple words in their own language. They will warm to you and you will make friends. As I said previously, I'm on holiday here in Davao City in the Philippines. The reason I'm here in Davao City is because this is where my wife comes from. She is a Davaoeña, which is what we call ladies who come from Davao City. We come here regularly on holiday, although of course there has been a delay in the last 2 or 3 years because of the pandemic. But now things are opening up again in the Philippines. More tourists are beginning to come. Conditions are getting a little bit better here now. In fact, you can move around the city quite freely, as long as you don't mind wearing a mask, which we're hoping that that rule will be abolished soon. In general, Filipino people are very friendly, very accommodating, and you'll soon get used to the typical Filipino smile wherever you go. I always like to talk to Filipinos, and if you can talk to them in their own language, just a few words, they'll be so happy. If you can say "Kumusta" instead of "hello," or you can say "salamat" instead of "thank you," their smiles will broaden and they'll be so happy to get to know you and ask you about your own country. As I said, my wife is from this very city, Davao City. But of course there are many other places in the Philippines which often use different languages. For example, if your friend or your partner or your wife comes from the north of the Philippines, from Manila, then of course Tagalog will be the language that you will want to study and learn a few words. If, like me, your wife comes from Davao City, or your partner or your friend, then of course you would want to learn Visayan or Cebuano, because that is the local language that's spoken. Actually, in the Philippines, if you come from the north of the Philippines, your first language will be Tagalog. Your second language will be English. If you come from the south of the Philippines or central Philippines, your first language will be Visayan. Your second language will be Tagalog, and your third language will be English. So expect more proficiency in English in the north of the Philippines than you would find in the south or the central Philippines. Although in this particular blog we're talking about the Philippines, future blogs will include talking about living in other countries, for example France, Germany, Belgium, various other countries where I have spent time and learnt the languages there. Learning a foreign language is not as daunting as it seems. Most people can do it. If you already speak English fluently, of course, then learning a second language won't be too difficult. A little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but the rewards are well worth it. Even just a few words will enamor you to the people of the host country and make them come close to you and not shy away from you. So it's worth doing. Even just a few words. Anyone can do it, and I'm here to help you, maybe, if I can, give you a few tips and show you the best way to do it. In future blogs, our languages will be separated into different channels so that you'll be able to concentrate on the particular language maybe that you're interested in. I know that most of you, your first language will probably be English who are looking at this. Even if it's not, that doesn't matter. A second language can come along quite easily. Maybe some of you learned another language at school. You know other people who come from different countries and you know a few words of their language. The important thing about trying to learn a foreign language is start simply. Learn the simple greetings. Hello, good morning, good evening, how are you, thank you, please. Get those words under your belt first, then we can continue to learn. The important thing is to do a little every day. As I always tell my students when I'm teaching French or German or English, the most important thing is to have a little every day. For example, 10 minutes per day is quite enough, as long as it's every day. That will fix it in your brain and you won't forget. An hour once a week, 2 hours once a week is not good. A little and often is the key phrase. As I mentioned before, I'm in Davao City in the southern Philippines at the moment. It's a beautiful city and is actually known as the fruit basket of the Philippines. From here comes all the wonderful fruits like bananas, mangoes, papayas, very well known for its fruit, and some fruits probably that you've never heard of, like star fruit and lanzones. All these fruits come from the Philippines, from Davao City in particular. I first came to this wonderful city 30 years ago when I married my wife, and it's changed a lot in that time. Nowadays we can get around the city very easily with pedicabs, tricycles, taxis, and the famous Filipino jeepney, which looks rather like an American Jeep, but with plenty of decorations all over it. They're very colourful. In fact, a drive downtown on the jeepney is a real eye-opener to life in the Philippines. You will see some pretty bad driving. You will see lots of street vendors selling their wares at the side of the road, fruit, for example. And you'll also see vendors who will repair your watch, who will fix your shoes, and perhaps even pull your teeth out if you want them to. Every kind of life is there. And as we say here in Davao City, all human life is there. Malcolm here again. If you enjoyed the video, please like down below. If you want to see more, subscribe. Please feel free to leave any comment you like down below, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to know, and I'll be sure to get back to you. I'll make sure of that, okay? Bye for now.